It's a week before the end of the holy month of Ramadan, and Aceh's busiest market is buzzing with activity. Everyone's looking for a deal, a special gift to mark the coming festivities. The market was completely destroyed by the December 26 tsunami. Hundreds of its merchants were killed, and the survivors were left without any means of support. The International Organization for Migration has since rebuilt this and other markets, reinvigorating the local economy and putting money back into the pockets of traders like Eddy.
Agak susah bisnisnya, orangnya, habis itu tempat jualannya kita nggak ada. Jadi di depan-depan toko orang lah kita numpang sementara. Terima kasih kepada Yom, udah kasih gede kayak gini, udah bisa jualan balik, ya kan, udah normal ekonomi.
In the months since a 15-metre wall of water slammed into Indonesia's northernmost province, IOM has vastly expanded the scope and scale of its operations across Aceh, constructing new homes along 600 kilometres of coastline, liaising with communities along the tsunami belt, reinvigorating the medical system in remote and underserviced areas, delivering aid to the needy, and breathing new life into a devastated economy.
Aceh is a special place in terms of the people themselves. They want to be in charge of their own lives. They want to take themselves forward, their society forward. We're here as an aid for them in that respect.
The production line in this Banda Aceh factory never sleeps. Here, sand and water combine to form the building blocks of Aceh's reconstruction. The basic 36 square metre housing units can be reconfigured to suit different needs, rapidly disassembled, moved to a new location, or even converted into permanent structures. Using an Indonesian design and a 5,000-strong Achenese workforce, these cement components will be bolted together like a giant jigsaw puzzle to create earthquake-resistant homes, schools and clinics around the province. In Chot Paya, 20 minutes northeast of Banda Aceh, a new community is emerging from the rubble. Two-thirds of the local population died in the tsunami, but with IOM's help, 76 families have already moved from tattered tents into new shelters, and another 50 are waiting for their homes to be built. Motorcycle taxi driver Tunku Irwan Umar lost 3 daughters, his home and all his worldly possessions to the tsunami. He's since emerged from months of grief to cobble together a new taxi from salvaged parts. And in August, he and his wife were handed the keys and ownership papers to their new temporary home. The land has been secured rent-free for the next 2 years, at which time the homes can be dismantled, moved to deeded building sites and rebuilt as permanent structures.
Apalagi macam kayak orang ayam-ayam yang datang sini ada dari Kanada, dari Australia, kadang-kadang ada dari orang Jepang udah bergabung membantu kami, melihat kami duduk di tenda di rumput-rumput, tidur di situ, membantu kasih tenda, nggak ada air, diantar air bersih. Sudah antar air bersih, kadang-kadang kami dibikin rumah seperti ini. Kalau rumah anti gempa ini kurasa udah layak untuk dipakai. Daripada kami tidur di rumput, tidur di tenda itu, moga-moga macam kayak ini udah baguslah.
Initial skepticism about the need for temporary shelters in post-tsunami Aceh has disappeared. With close to 70,000 people still living in tents, implementing an effective temporary shelter program is now one of the cornerstones of a multi-agency international effort.
I think, IOM should be rightly proud of the work that's being put in place, because I think at the start there were a lot of people who maybe questioned whether or not this was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. But the reality is that IOM went ahead and actually implemented and has houses up where very few other people do.
The success of IOM's shelter program hinges upon close cooperation with its beneficiaries and the seamless integration of sustainable livelihood support programs. IOM's community outreach section meets regularly with the internally displaced population to explain IOM's shelter project and identify particularly vulnerable groups. Occasionally, these public forums can become heated. The 3,000 people living in this Banda Aceh camp are frustrated by what they see as unreasonable delays and unfulfilled promises.
IOM is only one agency that delivers their promises. Up to now, small NGO is delivering some of their promises, but a lot of large NGO and donor is not deliver their promises. IOM is both have the funds and also have the capacity to implement. That's why IOM is perform better than the others.
In one of the units on IOM's Gwe Gajah settlement, people are finding new livelihoods and new hope. 8 of the 12 families here are headed by widows. They are among the nearly 3,500 families in 11 tsunami-affected districts who have benefited from IOM's agricultural and fisheries training and microcredit projects. IOM provides ovens and all the ingredients for the first baking classes run by one of the Gwe Gajah residents. Flour and sugar, mixed with 2 days of practical small business training, has fired them with dreams of a more prosperous future.
Apabila banyak yang memesan, mungkin akan kita courting lagi gitu. Misalnya ada yang memesan dari kantor-kantor kan langsung mesan ke sini. Itu ada potongan harga. Saya sangat senang tinggal di rumah ini, terutama yang diberikan oleh IOM ini. Saya sangat berterima kasih kepada IOM yang telah memberikan rumah dan alat-alat gue yang seperti ini yang sedang kami nikmati.
In a shop house on Aceh's east coast, IOM livelihood support is focused on young women susceptible to human traffickers. The tsunami destroyed much of Aceh's fragile economy, leaving the population, particularly young women, vulnerable to promises of a prosperous future far from home. Through awareness-raising efforts, training in animal husbandry, small loans to merchants and embroidery classes, IOM's counter-trafficking section warns women of the risks and gives them other options. Workers apply the finishing touches to an earthquake-damaged clinic in a farming community 45 minutes south of Malabo on Aceh's west coast. The repairs are part of IOM's Community Health Revitalization Program, targeting 5 remote sub-districts identified by the World Health Organization and the Provincial Health Office. Prior to the tsunami, roughly half the people living in these areas had no access to medical care. What did exist was in poor repair, its staff lacking in equipment and training. The CHRP is changing all that.
Perasaan pribadi saya sangat bermanfaat sekali, terutama yang sebelum tsunami saya belum bisa menikmati itu semua fasilitas secara optimal, tapi alhamdulillah setelah adanya IOM, fasilitas-fasilitas itu sudah mulai terpenuhi dan akan lebih meningkat kinerja kami semua.
IOM's health section has forged an effective partnership with the Harvard Medical School in Boston. Young physicians like medical anthropologist Jesse Grayman help local staff develop meaningful outreach and support programs for the local population.
I think this program's been really important for the area. We've been able to do a lot of structural improvements on these buildings that were affected by the earthquake and the tsunami. We've re-equipped them with lots of equipment that was either damaged or that they didn't have before.
IOM has also built 37 satellite health clinics to meet the health needs of some 45,000 people living in government-built barracks. It's the natural evolution of medical support services that began with doctors and nurses providing life-saving treatment in tents in the days after the tsunami. By the end of the year, 350 IOM convoys will have delivered more than 90,000 metric tons of supplies to Aceh and Nias Island in North Sumatra. The convoys and a ship operating between Nias and the mainland have hauled freight on behalf of more than 100 partner organisations and Indonesian government departments. The next major logistical exercise will be to transport up to 20,000 semi-permanent shelter kits, part of a multi-agency international effort to get tsunami survivors out of their ageing tents. The International Organization for Migration's commitment to the people of Aceh began prior to the tsunami and will continue for years to come. With the generous assistance of its many governmental and private sector donors, IOM is helping the Acehnese on their journey towards a peaceful and prosperous future.
Here toward